now we're going to call upon Honorable Dr. Jessie Kabwila. Dr. Jessie Kabwila is the former chairperson of SADC Parliamentary Women's Caucus, and she's going to raise awareness on challenges women in Malawi experience due to lack of public funding, poor delivery of public services. She's going to talk and relate debt justice as an issue of gender justice. Justify why women in Malawi need debt cancellation, and she will justify why Malawian women will need to rise to this issue and be counted. So we can't be talking about it, taking the stands. We need to know what it is. Dr. Jessie Kabwila.
Thank you very much, and greetings to the whole House. I will not waste time with salutations. Let me get straight to the point, and maybe the question is, why is debt an issue? Why is it a gender question? Why is it a feminist question, if we are to say? Well, 52% of this country is made up of women, and it's made up of the poor, majority of whom are women. So the ability of a government, actually it was not switched on.
Yeah, so I'll start right from this side. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I want to get straight to the question of why is debt cancellation an issue that gender activists should be talking about or feminists should be interested in? The main reason is simple. 52% of Malawi are actually women, and majority of the poor are women. For that reason, what a country does with its resources is a major issue when it comes to the question of debt. I want to go straight to the fact that COVID came, but COVID came to a country that was already having challenges in terms of service delivery, in terms of what it is able to do to help the poor. Now, as COVID has come, imagine out of our current budget, out of 4.1 trillion, 31% is foreign debt, and 69% is domestic debt. Now, in this global week of action, we are calling on those who we owe, the foreign debtors, to say, we need this to be forgiven, to be cancelled. I've actually used the word forgiven intentionally, because quite honestly, we do not need to be begging for this. Because what should be made very clear is, part of our problem is historical. It's coming from the colonial legacy. It is also the cost we are paying for neoliberal policies. And what is often not spoken of is that neoliberal policies, the impacts of neoliberalism impact women and men disproportionately. It is women who pay heavily when governments are dictated that you cannot employ people beyond such a threshold. When we are told that the only way for you to get funding, you must do blah, blah, blah. In other words, we are calling for an unconditional cancellation. Not a cancellation like the one that came in 2000, where we actually ended up with Fanikiso's death because there was such hunger in the country. It was followed by protests. Part of it was because of what IMF had dictated to this country. We are calling for an unconditional cancellation because that is what will allow us to realize or help us realize the 1 million jobs we're talking about, the cheap fertilizer we're talking about, improve the healthcare. It will allow our government to at least have a shot at reaching the poor. So we are calling on a cancellation of this and unconditional, and honestly, we have done it before. We qualified in 2000, but we ended up with a conditional, conditional debt relief that actually ended up costing lives. Yes, IMF later said they'd seen that they'd made a mistake, but that was after they thought. This time around, we want you to help us help ourselves by actually cancelling this debt. I will go on to talk about the fact that as we are talking, the women who stand before you We are 5 here, including our brother who is here. But we are representing those who are in the villages, who are failing to get access to water, to get health care, for the elderly, for them to be able to get what can help them. As you look at this, if I may call it a stage, or even those in the audience, please see those who are not in this room, those who stand to die if we do not change the way we are responding to COVID. Malawi cannot fight COVID with this debt. It cannot. I think you saw the picture that was making the circles, showing how our students are going to school in the COVID time. You were looking and saying they're actually going to get COVID under this circumstance, because our classrooms, we are very far away from looking at menstrual hygiene, from looking at access to water, from making sure that they've got enough desks. We desperately need the foreign investors to do the right thing. If they really call themselves development partners to this country, it is time to actually cancel this debt, just so that someone can have a meal in front of their table, they can get a road, they can actually attend all school, because menstrual hygiene has been assured. And we have suffered many girls who have become pregnant during COVID-19. We need this debt cancelled for us to be able to keep them into school, take care of the children that will be born, and make sure that we've ended the marriages. Because just saying you've ended the marriage, you need to put a framework that really keeps the girl child away from the marriage, rather than to have them go back. We've just finished a research together with the Ministry of Gender that actually shows that many young girls got pregnant. If this debt is forgiven, we will have a shot at bringing them back to get access to education. Very, very finally, I would like to thank that we've actually sat down to discuss the linkage between debt and women. And we as a movement, the feminist movement of Malawi, want to make it clear that we are very well aware that the domestic debt is quite high. And in our call, we are also holding our people accountable. But to be honest, removal of the 31% from the current budget will go a long way and help fortify the efforts that are being done locally. Please, we've seen many campaigns, he for she, sometimes you come use talk of she decides. This is the campaign that will bring tax justice to Malawians, to the majority poor, majority of whom are women. If this debt is cancelled, the world would have shown that it understands that the price of neoliberalism, the price of corruption, the price of owing taxes women's bodies more than the men. We are really concerned, and we call for this unconditional debt cancellation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Jessie Kabwila, for that very strong statement. If this debt is not cancelled, Malawi will not be able to overcome COVID-19. So this will affect the whole world. And we are calling for action, and action now.